close your eyes, and imagine the pride of the modern world. We boast about our nuclear reactors, our silicon chips, and our satellite arrays. We look back at the people of 4,500 years ago as primitive shadows, scratching out a meager living in the dirt. But what if the story we've been told is a calculated deception? What if, while we were supposedly just learning to forge iron, an entire civilization was already dying in the blinding fire of an atomic blast? What if the first nuclear age didn't begin in a laboratory in New Mexico in 1945, but in the Indus Valley before the first page of our history books was even written? Today, we are going to walk through the radioactive streets of Mohenjo-Daro, a city where the skeletons are still holding hands in the middle of the road, frozen in a scream that has lasted for millennia. This is not a myth. This is not a campfire story. This is a forensic crime scene of a planetary scale. We have found the melted glass, we have measured the radiation, and we have heard the echoes of the gods dropping the sun itself upon the heads of men. If you think you know our origins, prepare to watch that knowledge turn to ash. Welcome to the most terrifying chapter of our past. When archaeologists first unearthed Mohenjo-Daro in the 1920s, they expected to find the humble remains of a riverside civilization. Instead, they found a city that looked like it was designed by a modern urban planner. A perfect grid system, sophisticated sewage pipes, and multi-story brick buildings. But as they dug deeper, the excitement turned to cold, shivering horror. They found 44 skeletons scattered across the streets. These people weren't buried in graves. They weren't killed by a flood or a plague. They were struck down exactly where they stood. In one area, a father, a mother, and a child were found huddled together, their bones fused by a heat so intense it defied description. But here is the detail that the academic elite refuses to tell you. When researchers brought Geiger counters to these ruins, the needles went off the charts. Some of these skeletons registered levels of radioactivity over 50 times the natural background radiation. They were as hot as the victims found at the hypocenter of the Hiroshima blast. There are no signs of a struggle, no wounds from swords or spears. Just the silent, invisible killer of ionizing radiation. But the skeletons are only the beginning. At the center of the city, there is a forbidden zone, a patch of ground where the very earth has been transformed. Here, the stones, the pottery, and the clay bricks have undergone a process called vitrification. To turn solid rock and clay into green, translucent glass, you need temperatures exceeding 1,500 degrees Celsius. A standard house fire cannot do this. A forest fire cannot do this. Even a volcanic eruption would leave different geological signatures. This only happens when the atmosphere itself becomes a furnace, a phenomenon seen only at nuclear test sites like Alamogordo or the Nevada desert. The locals have feared this place for centuries, calling it the place of the dead. They speak of a great light that turned the night into day and made the rivers boil. To find the answer to where such a weapon came from in 2500 BC, we must turn to the Mahabharata, the ancient Sanskrit epic. For years, mainstream historians dismissed its descriptions as poetic exaggeration. But listen to these words with the ears of a modern physicist. A single projectile charged with all the power of the universe. An incandescent column of smoke and flame as bright as 10,000 suns rose in all its splendor. It was an unknown weapon, an iron thunderbolt, a gigantic messenger of death, which reduced to ashes the entire race of the Vrishnis and the Andhakas. The text goes on to describe the aftermath with chilling clinical accuracy. The corpses were so burned as to be unrecognizable. The hair and nails fell out, pottery broke without apparent cause, and the birds turned white. After a few hours, all foodstuffs were infected. How did a poet living thousands of years ago know the exact symptoms of acute radiation syndrome? How did they know that hair and nails fall out when the body is ravaged by gamma rays? How did they know about the white birds, a phenomenon caused by the intense thermal flash blinding and bleaching the feathers of animals in flight? They didn't imagine this. They witnessed it. They were describing the Agneya weapon, a gift from the gods that could level mountains and poison the wind. Mohenjo-Daro is not an isolated incident. Across the planet, we find the scars of this ancient atomic war. In the Libyan desert, there are vast fields of desert glass, created by a heat source so powerful it melted the sand into pure silica. In Scotland, we find vitrified forts where the stone walls have been fused together like wax. In the Bible, we hear of Sodom and Gomorrah, where fire and brimstone rained from the sky, turning a woman into a pillar of salt, a perfect metaphor for a body vaporized by a thermal pulse. The theory of ancient aliens suggests that the Earth was once a chessboard for extraterrestrial factions. These gods did not fight with sticks and stones. They fought with plasma cannons, orbital strikes, and tactical nuclear warheads. Mohenjo-Daro may have been a casualty of a celestial war, a city caught in the crossfire of beings who viewed human life as nothing more than collateral damage. Or perhaps the humans of that era had grown too advanced, too rebellious, and their creators decided to wipe the slate clean, resetting human progress back to the Stone Age. Why does the establishment hide the radiation data of the Indus Valley? Because it destroys the myth of the primitive past. If we admit that nuclear technology existed 4,000 years ago, we have to admit that we are not the masters of our own destiny. We have to admit that there are beings far more powerful than us who can pull the plug on our civilization whenever they choose. The ruins of Mohenjo-Daro are a mirror. We see ourselves in their grid-patterned streets, and we see our potential future in their charred bones. We are currently playing with the same iron thunderbolt that turned the Indus Valley into a graveyard. We are walking the same path of technological arrogance without spiritual wisdom. The radioactive dust of the past is swirling around us, screaming a warning that we are too deaf to hear, that the gods are not just creators, they are the ultimate destroyers. We have reached the end of our journey through the ruins of the ancient world. From the impossible precision of the Egyptian pyramids to the singing stones of Stonehenge, from the sunken glass towers of Atlantis to the radioactive ash of Mohenjo-Daro, every road has led to the same shadowy figures. Every mystery has pointed to the same architects from above. It is time to stop dancing around the truth. It is time to ask the question that will shatter the foundations of every religion and every science on Earth. Were the gods actually aliens? In our next series, Part 3, Gods or Extraterrestrials, we will tear down the veil. We will analyze the DNA of the deities, investigate the flying vimanas of the Hindu texts as actual metallic craft, and look at the angels of the Bible through the lens of ancient astronaut theory. Get ready, because what you are about to see will change your reality forever. Our next episode dives deep into the sands of the Nile. Were the Egyptian gods actually aliens? The truth isn't a matter of faith anymore. It's a matter of evidence.